I will now ask God's blessings on this evening's proceedings. Let us pray. Almighty God and Heavenly Father, we thank you for every blessing that you have bestowed upon this nation of Barbados and upon this school. We thank you for all the stakeholders, the Ministry of Education, the Board of Management, the Principal and Acting Deputy Principal, our specially invited guests, the ancillary and teaching staff, as well as the parents, guardians, and students of our school. We thank you for their commitment and dedication in the advancement of Queen's College. I ask that you will continue to bless them all. As we celebrate the achievements of our school and students this evening, we thank you for the success that you have granted them, and we pray that you will continue to strive for excellence in all that they do. I ask you, dear God, to take control of proceedings this evening. May your name be exalted and glorified. In Jesus' name, amen. I will now invite Mr. Brian Lashley to come, and he will lead us in the singing of the national anthem.
In plenty and in time of need, when this fair land was young, our brave forefathers sowed the seed from which our pride is sprung. A pride that makes no wanton boast of what it has withstood, that binds our hearts from coast to coast, the pride of nationhood. We loyal sons and daughters all do hereby make it known. These fields and hills beyond recall are now our very own. We write our names on history's page with expectations great, strict guardians of our heritage, firm craftsmen of our faith.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lashley, otherwise known as the voice of Queen's College. I kindly ask you to remain standing as we will now have the presentation of corsages and boutonnieres. I want to thank these young ladies. I believe they did an excellent job because I didn't hear anyone say ouch. Kindly sit. Chairman of the Board of Management of Queen's College, Miss Donna Simmons, all other members of the Board of Management of Queen's College, Principal Dr. David Brown, Head of Foreign Languages Department, Mrs. Bridget McIntyre, our presenters and prizes and awards for the evening, former Deputy Principal, Dr. Marva Lashley, former head of the mathematics department, Mrs. Claire Williams, specially invited guests, the staff of Queen's College, media, members of the media, parents, and awardees, I welcome you once again to our annual prize giving and awards ceremony. I now invite the chairman of the Board of Management of Queen's College, Ms. Donna Simmons, to give her opening remarks. You can welcome her as she comes.
Thank you, Mr. Master of Ceremonies. Members of the stage party, the specially invited guests, distinguished guests, I see a number of you here. The requisite protocols and greetings having been conducted by our Master of Ceremonies, it is left to me to welcome you all here. I believe that all of you know today is a unique day in the history of Queen's College and in the history of Queen's College Speech Days, because it is the first time that the featured speaker will be an old scholar of Queen's College who happens to be the sitting Prime Minister of Barbados. That is no small thing, and one from which all Queen's College students should take inspiration and belief in the possibility of signal achievement. This is also the occasion upon which your academic, this is for the students, sporting and other achievements are recognized. And it is hoped that beyond this, your continued excellence will be on display for Barbados, the Caribbean, and the world. All the plaudits belong to our outstanding students whose performances have been stellar due to their intelligence, hard work, and dedication. But sincere thanks and recognition must also be given to the teaching and non-teaching staff, parents and guardians for their part in producing such steadfast excellence. And on behalf of the Board of Management, whom I must say and I must report to you have been extremely supportive, cohesive, and worked very hard over the last year, on their behalf as well, I offer particular and sincere congratulations and appreciation to all for the exceptional success throughout the school. I said this before and I'm going to say it again. I don't believe in long speeches. At this time it is the Students' Day, and as a result of that, that is my welcome to you all. And I'm going to just ask that we get on with the proceedings and reward and celebrate those who've put in all of the hard work.
Thank you very much, Ms. Simmons, for your remarks. The driver of E4533, your lights are on, so if you can attend to your vehicle immediately, that would be appreciated. The driver of vehicle E4533. Here at Queen's College, we've had the privilege of having who I consider to be the best principal in Barbados. Do you agree? Yes. Dr. David Brown. He's a man of vision and astute leadership. I now invite our esteemed principal, Dr. David Brown, to share the principal's report. Welcome him as he comes. Okay. All right, we're just going to have a slight alteration. Our featured speaker, who is the Right Honorable Mia Moore Motley, she's just arrived. So I'm going to ask you to stand at this moment. All right, while we wait on her arrival into the hall, I will read for you. The Honorable Mia Motley is the 8th Prime Minister of Barbados. She became the first woman to occupy that high office following general elections on May 24th, 2018. in which she led the Barbados Labour Party to an emphatic victory, winning all 30 seats in the House of Assembly by the largest margin ever seen in the electoral history of the country. An attorney at law and Queen's Counsel, Prime Minister Motley has been active in the political life of Barbados for almost 3 decades. First elected in 1994, she is presently in her 6th term as Member of Parliament for the constituency of St. Michael North East. From 1994 to 2008, Ms. Motley served in the cabinet of 3 successive administrations. First as Minister of Education and Culture, then Attorney General and Minister of Home Affairs, and then Minister of Economic Affairs. In 2003, she was appointed Deputy Prime Minister. Prime Minister Motley currently also holds the portfolios of Minister of Finance, Economic Affairs, and Investment. We're just going to wait a little bit for the Prime Minister. We have to wait for her. All right, I want you to put your hands together and welcome our Prime Minister, Mia Amor Motley. She will be doing the featured address this evening. I welcome Ms. Motley to the stage.
I've been waiting a long time to tell a Queen's College Assembly, please sit. First of all, let me, Dr. Brown, thank you for this kind invitation which you have extended to me. I know that you extended it 1 year ago, and regrettably, at the time, all of the things that we were juggling did not admit of my being able to come here today, come at that time. But nothing is ever too late. What's this? It's going to get in the way. And to the chairman and members of the board, teaching staff, children of Queen's College, I want to say that I've done many things in the course of the last 18 months, but this will count as a special occasion. And it counts as a special occasion because there are all kinds of emotions running in me at this point in time. The first emotion, of course, is as a young Queen's College student, seeing a Minister of Education driving in an MGB, park alongside the hall, and address us. And being completely inspired by the moment, because in a cabinet of all men, she was the only woman. And I refer specifically to Dame Billy Miller, and I can still see the MGB outside of the hall it perhaps influenced me in getting my first car, which was not an MGB, but an MGA, 1960. And ironically, I saw it on parade, red one. I didn't know that I would love red so much then. It was a case of future events cast in the shadows. But I got it, and the belief that there was a purpose to all that we were doing in school, that it wasn't just an isolated exercise, but that we were relating back to a country, to homes, to events. All of those things swirled in me from that early age. There is a member of my cabinet who is not here, who was in the senior school at the time. And she led, along with others, the brigade that would seek to put me in my place as a young Queen's College student who, in first form, dared to read The Politics of Change by Michael Manley. To the youngsters who are here, I share this story only because I've come here today to talk to you about the pursuit of truth and the pursuit of excellence. And to recognize that that is a journey and often not a destination. But we as a society have spent a lot of time talking, as we must, about those who are at risk because of learning disabilities, but we have not addressed those who are at risk because of social dislocation that can come from the other end of the spectrum, from being ahead of the curve, from being exceptional in your capacity to learn and to reason, from being different. Because in a small society, those who are outliers, in many respects, are treated as if something is wrong with them. And the pursuit of truth and the pursuit of excellence, to which I want to refer today, is not high policy. It's about life and walking the journey of life. The policy comes in from the perspective that if we have more people who are comfortable in their own skin, who pursue the truth of who they are, who speak truth to power to ensure that their conscience is clear, who pursue excellence such that it becomes their hallmark, if we have more people like that, in the words of our grandparents and great-grandparents, we can make the distance because, as I keep repeating, one blow is kill old cow. One person at a time, plus one, plus one, plus one, plus one, plus one. So what is our duty? Our duty as a government is to create and nurture an environment where leadership occurs throughout, such that we can cascade the message that who you are, the pursuit of truth in your own life, in what you do, in how you do it, matters. And even if that means, as I learned as a young first former, that you were to be ridiculed by upper six and lower six students, to have the book pulled from my hand and to be told you should be reading Mills and Boons and Nancy Drew. But it didn't bother me because I understood that I could do both. I didn't have to do one or the other. And in the end, I did do both. But I followed what I believed to be my purpose. And the adults who are here will forgive me if I really focus on talking to the children today. Because you are the ones who must fulfill your purpose. I have been moving from school to school, and I will be back at this school to have not a talk at, because this is regrettably what this is, but a talk with the children. And I've been meeting with the 4th and 5th formers, 6th formers where applicable, to start that talking with. Because until we learn the art of listening, until we share perspectives, until we understand where our children are and let them understand where we need them to go and why certain values are important, we're not going to get anywhere. And therefore, I've come today to be able to, in the context of the pursuit of truth and excellence, to say to each and every one of you that this is what ought to be your journey. To recognize that there are going to be times when you will not hit excellence. And you will not always be able to articulate the truth that you want to articulate. And that the danger comes, and I've walked with this, because this here has created perceptions and issues that might otherwise enlarge your sense of failure, regrettably. Because when you look at a phone day in and day out, and you taking selfies and you posting, you are reinforcing the message that how you look matters. And regrettably, in some instances, it has been made to take on a disproportionate impact, or to have a disproportionate impact on what really matters in your life. So that when failure or embarrassment then comes, it becomes the end of the world. And hence the conversations that I find particularly enthralling as I move around this country and this region, talking to persons under the age of 30 years old, is their concern about mental health issues. I believe that a large part of it comes from not understanding how to negotiate and navigate success and failure. I believe that we, as schools, as families, as communities, as societies, have to do a better job at talking with our young people and not at or to. But I also want young people to understand that you have benefited for the most part in a way that no previous generation of Barbadian has benefited. And to whom much is given, much is expected. You have the opportunity truly to be a global citizen with Barbadian roots. You have the opportunity to decide and define what your purpose can be, unconstrained by geographical boundaries, because of what technology affords you, but also because of the movement that we encourage and allow between countries, across civilizations, and for purposes known and unknown today. So that if the world is now your oyster, what is the most important asset that you must carry with you? I want to suggest it is that commitment to the pursuit of truth and excellence. But I also want, in those two words, to ensure that you understand that this is not just about academic excellence. This is also about your ability to manage people, manage relationships, manage friendships. The biggest problem in many institutions is the inability of people to get on. Now, you don't need certificates to get on with somebody else. If you have certificates, of course, you have an advantage. But in a country that values tourism, I argue all the time that one of the most important assets within a tourism plant is people who can smile. People who know how to make other people feel good. Not people who know how to score 100%. Because the scoring of 100% is an individual pursuit that will help you add value, yes, to whatever project you're doing. But if you want to carry people with you, and if you want to be able to be a force of good, and if you want to remove the obstacles that may come in your way, then your ability to manage relationships and manage expectations and manage yourself now becomes more important than anything else. And I worry. I worry because there is less emphasis on team sports. I see Ms. Griffith here. She taught me PE. In fact, I have to say to her for the first time that I used to love cricket until a hard ball raked me right here on my throat. And that was the end of that. And we played that behind the back of the Audiovisual Aids building. I remember very, very clearly. And we used to try to be able to do that to get out of cross-country running, but we weren't successful in that either. We had to do both. But the pursuit of team sports, as opposed to video games that are individualistic, the capacity to be able to understand that I can play a game with somebody who is older than me, beat them, but still have to respect them. Whether it's my parents, whether it's my teachers, whether it is older people in the school. And that victory or winning does not define you alone. That the kind of person you are, your capacity to care for others, your capacity to engage with others, your ability to empathize, to feel for, to remember the golden rule. Just stop and think, how the ex person will feel. Do unto others as you want, done unto yourself. That when all is said and done, Dr. Brown, your ability to shepherd these children with the teachers that you have doesn't come only down to who wins the Barbados Scholarship. Doesn't come only down to who wins a gold medal at Carifta or inter-school secondary games. But it comes down to the kind of person that you are. And that is the message that I want these children here, you, to understand and to walk with, whether you end up living in Africa, Asia, the Caribbean, Europe. This is what will protect you. Because if you can't navigate life, managing relationships, pursuing your own truth, setting standards of excellence, but recognizing that failure happens, that you might miss a mark, but that the only true failure in life is for those who refuse to try again, or those who refuse to learn from their mistakes. Because technology gives us the opportunity to keep trying, to keep learning, to keep doing all of the things. So you didn't make it the first time. Pick up and move. My own journey, I shared yesterday with the students of Frederick Smith. I lost my first election. The next day, I was back in the constituency, canvassing at midday, having got home at 5 o'clock the morning, same morning. I know what it is to be removed from leadership. You humble yourself. You play your part as a member of the team. And if perchance it comes again, great. And if it doesn't, it wasn't meant to be. How we manage failure, how we manage expectations, how we manage our own truth is inextricably linked to the increased concern on mental health issues in our region. But it is also the character building that allows you to reach the top eventually. And I hope and pray that those of you here will do things that are so wonderful that we've never even thought of. But I know this, that whatever those things are, you still have to be able to care for your family, your community, and the people with whom you work. And that's the common thread that I want you to leave here today with. I used to think that, wow, I really, really, really wanted to be around at the time of a country becoming independent. And why was I born in 1965? I would have liked to have been born before, so that the heady days of fighting colonialism and building a nation could be part and parcel. And perhaps that was my obsession then with reading Eric Williams' Inward Hunger, Michael Manley's Politics of Change, and all of the books that you could get your hands on to understand what these nation builders felt in molding a nation, molding a people and building a nation. Little did I know that it was a journey, and that very often you would be tested again, as you, when we are long gone, will probably be in this nation, in this world that is consumed by a climate crisis that truly is going to change how you live, how you eat, and everything that you do in this country. Little did I know that we would be forced to be able to bring back a nation from being the third most indebted country in the world, and how having to build back institutions almost from scratch that have been affected over the course of the last decade. Little did I know that we would now have to have these conversations across all of our schools to begin to appreciate that parental education alone will not make it, especially when we are not educating our parents to raise children. Little did I know that we would now have to make a clarion call for all of these adults and the rest who are not in here to recognize that they can no longer be spectators in the building of a nation or taxpayers acting in accordance with the law, but that they need now to be molders of people, molders of children, molders of young people, to give of their time, to be able to return to a situation where titans of industry see it as normal to go and play in a cricket club, and to be able to shepherd and guide and mentor 14 and 15 and 16 and 17-year-olds, young boys that may not have a male figure in their immediate life, and who for them the opportunity to bond with older men playing cricket can give them the chance to ask the questions that defy their very understanding as young teenagers, and how to manage people and relationships. Young women who need mentorship and guidance, learning how to negotiate, to say no. No to unwanted advances. No to unwanted substances. No to being a part of the crowd because you want to pursue your own truth, and you don't want to be distracted on your mission for excellence. Or teaching young women and young boys why winning at all costs does not count, because it dehumanizes you. Read Nelson Mandela's autobiography and the lesson he learned as a young boy, that even when you have within you the ability to win, you don't win to the point of humiliating and dehumanizing your opponent, because your opponent keeps you in mind even when long you have forgotten what the battle was. Or the lesson that one of our great Barbadian teachers, Matt Fingal, taught me, both as Minister of Education and recently as Prime Minister again, that we spend too much time talking about instead of talking with. And that secondly, that we need to be able to bring our sense of fairness and righteousness mainstream. So that when he had a sporting team that at Grantley Adams School obliterated the Grantley Adams School team and were behaving in an abominable manner, jarring and cheering and poking fun. And as they went to get in the bus in the evening to take them back to lodge, he asked them, "Where are you going?" They said, "But sir, we just win." He said, "And where you think you're going?" "We're going back to school to get our stuff to go home." He said, "Yes, you are, but you're going to run. Not a fella ain't getting in this bus because you had no right treating the people that you beat in the way in which you treated them this evening." And those young boys would never have forgotten, therefore, that lesson, that how you win is as important as winning itself. So, my friends, this program has been altered only because I have to attend the funeral of the young schoolboy who was killed less than a month ago. I know what it is to be in a Barbados where we've seen kids die in a school environment before. The young girl who died at Foundation. We've had incidents of violence, but we must never become accustomed to it. It must always outrage. It must always offend us. And one of the concerns I have with the same video games and the absence of team sports, the absence of the lessons that you learn, like the one I just shared from Matt, is that you get so consumed. Not to mention that I feel a lot of people end up with arthritis when they get old, Dr. St. John. But you get so consumed that when you are killed, or you killing people in this game, you feel you can get up and continue. So when I ask the kids, and they say, "Yeah, but we go and eat lunch and we come back and we start back." I said, "But you're dead." They said, "No, we only dead on this. We could play again." And the simple message that in real life, when you're dead, seems to escape me. So we have some conversations. And in fairness to the teachers of this country, yes, you have to help lead, but it's not you alone. You see the school meals workers? You see the janitors? You see all who work on a school compound? More often than not, these have to be the real leaders in a school because they see children in their most natural environment. And we have to be able to take all of our workers who are ancillary workers and train them in leadership and treat them with the respect that they deserve as leaders in our institutions and not just the principal or heads of department. And we have equally then to reach out to the parents and to ask them, why aren't you a member of the cricket clubs? And I'm not talking necessarily about school clubs. Why is the Barbados Cricket League dormant in the way in which it is as compared to where it was 60, 70, 80 years ago? Because it's great to have it in schools, and my government will be launching a major initiative in cricket nationally. But I've sent them back to the table because what they gave me was a schools program alone. And if we want to create the platforms for intergenerational communication and intergenerational support and interclass support and all of the things that made us a balanced and safe society, then we need to go back and to create these institutions in our communities. I share this last example with you from my uncle now, who, when he was CEO of the National Cultural Foundation, or Director of Culture, I can't remember what it was in those days, when Dame Billy was minister, some youngsters from St. Andrew called him an afternoon. And for whatever reason, I happened to be there waiting for a ride. I was 14 or so at the time, 15. And asked him for some stage sections and a tent. He said, no. Go by Mr. So-and-so. He got 2 lorries. That is your stage. And the man next door to him, if my memory serves me correctly, got some tarpaulin. Get some poles, and that is your tent. So he came off the phone, and other workshop men were there, because after the NCF had bought all this stuff for Carifesta, they definitely had stages and tents. And I asked him, I said, but you have them. Why didn't you give them to them? He says, I could give them to them, and they would never talk to the man that I sent them to talk to, even though they live in the same village. He says, what I did was to force them to find solutions within their own community and to build relationships within their own community. So he could have solved their problem instantly, but he chose instead to send them on a path of self-discovery and a path that requires them to build relationships. That is what we need in this country. That is what we need. Yes, we're solving the debt issues. Yes, by next week, all of the new bonds for external debt will be behind us. Yes, we've gone from 176%. By next week, we'll be 114% in debt to GDP. Yes, we got a credit rating upgrade today. And we expect that more will come. Yes, we have investments to do, and all of them are starting to unfold. But all of that will come to nothing if we don't get the equation right for you to be the future of this country, to help us with future Barbados, and for you to understand that as you do it, the measurement of your success is not in scholarships and degrees alone, but is in the content of your human character, is in your ability, is in your ability to live good with one another. It's in your ability to be able to manage conflict. And that's why it's not, I love Bajan, I speak more Bajan than anybody else. But if you don't give children vocabulary, they don't know how to express themselves with the nuances that make a difference. Dame Billy used to tell me all the time that most people in this country don't have a vocabulary of beyond how many words? 100 words. And that in some instances nowadays you're finding people can't go beyond 50 or 60 words. And when you watch some of the audiovisual productions, everything is a vibe. So a vibe can stand from here to there for so many different scenarios. And you better hope that you are interpreting it in the same way that they are meaning it. If not, you are running into what? A problem for conflict. But when you begin to understand that language is so powerful and so beautiful and so elegant, that it allows you to paint a picture in the same way that an artist can paint a painting, then you begin to understand that if you don't conquer language, regardless of what school you're in, if you can't communicate how you feel, then you are laying the platform for either violence, abuse, or mental conditions. These are the conversations that this country needs to have. And as I said, it's hard on me to decide that we're going to move from school to school to school, but I'm doing it. Because when I asked the people on this side of the room and in the front of this audience to start doing it, I'm not asking you to do anything that I have not been prepared to do myself, even with my responsibilities as Prime Minister. Part and parcel of the 2020 vision isn't about the events alone. Yes, the events are nice and that will come. But it is about reconnecting Barbadians overseas to their roots, to their family, and to the purpose and mission of helping us to build the nation and to mold the people. And it is in that reconnection that opportunities come. This morning I spent my reading dealing with a wonderful paper from a very distinguished Barbadian called Cardinal Ward, Professor Cardinal Ward, on recommendations, a 40-page paper, on how do we reposition science, technology, and engineering education, not only in Barbados, but in the region. Why is it that we have all of these bright kids wanting to do science and technology and engineering, and in many instances going overseas, but have nothing to come back to? Because there are no businesses. There are only so many people that Barbados Light and Power can hire. There's so many people that the Barbados Water Authority can hire. At what point are we going to start to create the science and technology parks that can have global appeal? And from that meeting went into another meeting with a group called Unreasonable. And they're called Unreasonable because they intended to disrupt all aspects of our lives. And they've put and facilitated $5 billion in investments globally, being able to see how can you use solar to be able to make the generation of desalinated water cheaper. How can we do things that have to change because of living in a climate crisis world? Change how we build to become more resilient, as our grandparents and great-grandparents used to be, quite frankly, with the houses that they built as compared to the flat roof houses that we build nowadays for the last 50 years. And that's why the government has put out a competition for an RFP to get new models of how to build houses again in this country that will be resilient. So all of these things, when we unlock the diaspora, we're not relying on 300,000 people here alone, but we are unleashing the potential for all who want to work in the nation and cause of Barbados. So my friends, I've spoken far longer than I wanted to, but I felt the need to share with you because it is now about motivating the rest of you in here or in this nation or by technology hearing my voice to recognize that it is the cascading now. It is the scale, as I discussed this morning with the Unreasonable group. If we do it for 2 or 3, it's not going to make a difference. But when we scale up what we are doing, when we have hundreds and thousands of people, the government is about to identify the 500 most vulnerable families in Barbados, and we want families to twin with them, because it's not about you putting money in a charitable pot alone. It's about you engaging and encountering that family and of your own perception, determining how you and your circle of friends in church or work or community or family can make a difference to help those 500 families move on the journey from dependence to independence to ultimately interdependence and giving back. And when we finish with those 500, then move to the next 500. The government can't do it alone. It's the people of the nation that will make the difference. And it's the children, you, the children of this nation, who will be the conscience. Because we have to do this if we want you to live in a better Barbados and a better world. And our failure to make these changes at this stage may mean that you will live in a Barbados that we don't recognize, nor do we want to see. So I hope that this sharing this evening, this afternoon, will inspire in some of you the understanding that the time is now upon us to do things differently and to rise to the occasion to take control of building the kind of nation that we want. and molding the people that we want to. And as for you, the children, I ask you always, be true to yourself. Speak truth to power. Assume that it is possible for you to achieve excellence in everything that you do. But recognize that excellence is a journey. And if you don't quite make it the first time or the second time or the third time, become a Jimmy Cliff girl as I am. You can get it if you really want, but you must try and try and try. You will succeed at last. That in this world, the only real failure is in your failing to try again, or you're failing to learn the mistakes that you have made. Learn from the mistakes that you've made. And if you can do all of that, and remember too that you come from a proud people, that as I say over and over because I want it, stand tall, sit properly, speak clearly and loudly, and always care for the people around you. Not a lot of lessons, but a lot of value to take you to the point of being a global citizen with Bajan roots, of whom we can be proud. I look forward to living long enough to being able to see some of you live that dream and make that difference, not just to Barbados, but to the world in which we live. God bless you all. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to ask you to remain standing. I know that our Prime Minister has another engagement, as she would have mentioned. I want to thank her, though, on behalf of all those who are part of the Queen's College family for coming this evening and sharing this thought-provoking and inspiring message. I looked on and I watched the students listening attentively, and I know that you've gotten through to all of us here this evening. I'm going to invite some students now who are going to make a presentation to our Prime Minister.
I told Liana that I love flowers, yes, but for two reasons I want her to present this to Dame Billy. One, because I started my speech this afternoon with a lot of emotion, recalling for you an event that inspired me as a young student of this school. And it is therefore only fitting that I get to continue that by symbolically letting Billy, who was the one who helped inspire that journey, to receive these flowers today. And then also selfishly, I have to go to the African, Caribbean, and Pacific Summit in Kenya tomorrow night. And I don't want the flowers to die. So I want to make sure that they are not only in good hands, but in hands who help mold me. Thank you.
15 hours flying. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
There you are. Thank you. Thank you so much. You said just 6 more minutes.
I do want to commend the Prime Minister for that noble gesture. Leading by example, it reminds me of what Jesus would have said when he said, the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve. So we thank you once again for that wonderful speech. Thank you. Now, the Prime Minister does want to stay on briefly to hear Dr. Brown's speech. You would recall before she came, Dr. Brown was about to give the principal's report. So I'm going to ask you to sit, but at any point in time, our Prime Minister will take her leave, and just appreciate that. Dr. David Brown, I welcome you to the stage to give the principal's report.
The Honorable Mayor Amar Motley, Prime Minister, Dame Billy Miller, Master of Ceremonies, Chairman of the Board of Management, members of the Board of Management, former members of staff, officers of the Ministry of Education, technical and vocational training, distinguished guests, parents, staff, students, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I want to welcome you all to the annual speech day and prize giving ceremony for 2019. The theme this year is the role of education in nation building. We gather here today to celebrate as teachers and parents and administrators our hard work. I extend special greetings to my former colleagues, Mrs. Claire Williams, who gave 34 years to education, and to also my colleague and former deputy principal who just retired, Dr. Marva Lashley, and she gave 42 years to the teaching profession. So between these two ladies, if you add it up, they gave a total of 76 years to education and to teaching. I have the greatest respect for them. Ms. Claire Williams, for years, put together the timetable at the school, and I always say to people, the first day in September, we roll out our education without any hitches. It used to be almost perfect, and I want to thank you very much for your work. She's an expert in putting together a timetable for school. Don't care how complex it is, and the variables you give her, she get it to work. I want you at this time to focus your eyes on the photographs here to my left of the two principals. To my left, to your right, just here. First, Ms. Colleen Bento Braffett. I received a call this week. She was in the island. She celebrated her 80th birthday. And except for the aches and pains, she is in the best of health. She's sending you her greetings. I want to, at this time as well, reserve a special mention for Mrs. Mishka Donovan Vickers, who we are going to present with the 2019